Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through your sources to pull out the most fascinating insights, basically giving you the shortcut to getting up to speed. Today, we're going to take you back, way back, to the roaring 1950s.
Ah, the 50s.
Yeah. It looked all wholesome post-war prosperity on the surface.
Right. Picket fences and all that.
Exactly. But underneath, something else was bubbling up. A real cultural rebellion and, well, a brand new sound.
That's right. And our mission today, digging into these sources you gave us, is to really explore the explosive birth and the early days of rock and roll. We're talking its complex origins, some really unexpected influences, and the massive cultural impact it had.
An impact it still has, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, lots of people, they hear rock and roll, they immediately think Elvis, right? The king.
He's the face for many.
But the story, as we found in these sources, YouTube transcripts, a blog post, quite a mix, it's much richer and way more debated than you might think.
Okay, so we've got these different source materials pulled together, a comprehensive look, hopefully.
Yeah, trying to get that multifaceted view.
So, diving in, it seems clear rock and roll wasn't just invented overnight. It came from this, what you call a sonic melting pot.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So how would you describe its, fundamental essence? What went into that pot?
Well, at its absolute core, rock and roll is this powerful mix, a real melding of diverse musical styles. It really kicked off as a combination of several Black American musical traditions. I mean, you've got the blues.
The foundation.
Definitely. The blues, R&B, rhythm and blues, gospel, soulfulness, the freedom of jazz, boogie-woogie piano driving things along, jump blues, that energetic feel. Even older stuff like field hollering, spirituals, ragtime, it all fed in.
So it sounds like the DNA, the absolute bedrock, is Black American music.
Undeniably, yeah.
But were there other things weaving in as it sort of took shape?
Yeah, definitely. It also started blending in white American traditions, things like country and western.
Which they called hillbilly music back then, right?
That's right, yeah. Hillbilly music, country swing, those got mixed in too. But, and this is really crucial, I think, something the sources kept hammering home. Rock and roll is, at its heart, a byproduct of the Black American experience, Black artistry, pain, heartache, joy, it's all in there. That's the foundation.
Gotcha. Okay. So as we look through these sources, one thing that kept jumping out was this debate, the argument over the first rock and roll song.
Ah, yes. The million-dollar question.
It seems like historians, music fans, they're fiercely divided. Some even call trying to find the first one a fruitless task. Why is it so hard to pin down?
Well, it's because the sound didn't just pop into existence fully formed, It evolved, it grew, and there are just so many early contenders, songs that had bits and pieces of what we now call rock and roll.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Okay, well, take Louis Jordan, his song Caledonia from way back in 1945.
45, wow.
Yeah. Or his Saturday Night Fish Fry in 49. That one's interesting because it had some early electric guitar licks, and they actually used the word rocking in it.
Ah, okay. So the term was already floating around.
It was. And even his 46 song, Choo Choo Chabogie, you can hear it, that aggressive, dynamic performance, the jump blues sound. It was definitely paving the way.
You can really hear that energy starting to build. Then you've got Wynonie Harris, Good Rockin' Tonight, 1948.
Right. Used rockin' right there in the title.
Yeah, and it had those familiar blues chord changes, the boogie-woogie piano, that strong backbeat.
And even those gospel-style hand claps. It had a lot of the elements.
Okay. And Jimmy Preston, Rock the Joint from 49.
Yeah, that one had a real party vibe. Exciting stuff. And apparently it was a clear inspiration for Bill Haley's later hit version.
So you see artists kind of circling around the same sound almost at the same time.
Exactly.
Converging.
But if we had to pick one, maybe the strongest contender, for the first true rock and roll record, a lot of the sources seem to point to one specific track. Ah, you mean Rocket 88?
Yeah, Jackie Brenston and his Delta Cats, 1951. This one feels different somehow, like a real turning point.
It really does. And what's amazing about Rocket 88, well, first off, it wasn't really Jackie Brenston's band.
Oh.
No, it was actually Ike Turner's Kings of Rhythm. Brenston was the sax player and sang lead, so it got credited to him.
Ike Turner. Okay, that's a name.
Yeah. And the song itself is just packed with these pioneering elements. The guitar sound, for one.
Right. The distorted guitar. Wasn't that an accident?
Totally unintentional. Willie Keysart's amplifier was damaged. Apparently the speaker cone was ripped, and legend has it they stuffed it with newspaper.
Newspaper.
Seriously, yeah, just trying to hold it together. And it created this fuzzy, distorted sound that nobody had really heard on a record like that before. Pure accident, pure necessity.
That's incredible. And it had that aggressive 12-bar blues thing going on, too.
Very driving.
And the lyrics about the Oldsmobile Rocket 88 car. That must have connected, right? Speed, freedom.
Totally. A symbol of speed, pride, and personal freedom, as one source put it. It really tapped into what young people were feeling.
Plus, Sam Phillips produced it.
Right. Mr. Sun records himself.
And the money he made from Rocket 88 helped him actually start Sun Records.
Yeah, the royalties allowed him to set up the label where he'd record Elvis, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, all the legends. It's like ground zero in a way.
A pivotal moment for sure, setting up so much that came later.
Absolutely. But it's interesting, Ike Turner himself, later on, he apparently didn't call Rocket 88 the first rock and roll song.
Oh, what did he say?
He said it was the cause of rock and roll existing. Which is a subtle difference, maybe.
Like, it wasn't the thing itself, but the spark that lit the fire?
Maybe, yeah. It makes you think, doesn't it? What's the line between influence and actually being the first? Is it one song or the whole buildup?
That's a tricky one. We also can't skip Big Joe Turner's Shake, Rattle, and Roll from '54.
Oh, yeah, classic, pure energy.
It had that R&B, jump blues feel, his huge voice, that swinging backbeat. And the lyrics?
A bit risque for the time, right?
Definitely. They call them coded double meanings, pushing boundary. You can feel the shift happening right there.
You really can. So yeah, moving into the mid-50s, that's when you see this electric spark truly ignite the whole thing, bring it into the mainstream consciousness.
And that was thanks to some key innovators, right? Artists who didn't just play the music. They kind of shaped it, defined it.
Exactly. And right near the top of that list, you got to put Chuck Berry.
Yeah. The sources call him a key figure, even the father of rock. That's a big claim.
It is, but he really did refine and define the genre. His first single, Maybelline from '55. Prime example.
What was special about Maybelline?
Well, he took an old country song, Ida Red, and just supercharged it, turned it into this high-speed electric R&B thing, distorted guitar riffs, driving beat.
And it was a hit.
Yeah, it crossed over, hit multiple charts. And the story in the song, a car chase, romantic rivalry, it just perfectly tapped into what kids were into. Speed, freedom.
He knew his audience.
He absolutely did. And then Roll Over Beethoven in '56, that was even more direct.
Oh, so?
The title says it all. He was basically saying, get out of the way, old classical stuff, there's something new happening. Expressing that frustration with older, more traditional genres.
Capturing the voice of a new generation.
Exactly. Ready for something louder and faster. And his guitar playing. Those double string licks.
The duck walk.
Yeah, the showmanship, too. He made the guitar the lead instrument. He made it cool. Iconic.
It's amazing how many distinct personalities were shaping this sound all at once, like Little Richard.
Oh, Little Richard. What a force.
Another key figure. Just burst onto the scene, didn't he? Tutti Frutti.
Yeah, Tutti Frutti, 1955. It was just explosive, that pounding piano. His voice, totally unpredictable, wild. It just broke with pop conventions.
Didn't they have to clean up the lyrics?
Oh, yeah. The original lyrics were pretty raw. Too much for mainstream radio in '55. But even the cleaned up version was electrifying. It influenced everybody.
And his stage presence.
Out of this world, so energetic. He brought that gospel fervor, combined it with rock elements, just completely unique and thrilling. A true original.
And then there's Bo Diddley, another unique sound.
Totally unique. His first single, self-titled, in '55, it introduced that Bo Diddley beat.
Describe that beat.
It's this syncopated rhythm, like a shave and a haircut, two bits kind of feel, but more complex. A clav beat, really? Roots in African and Caribbean music.
It was different.
Oh, yeah. Raw, percussive, totally new for pop music at the time. The whole song is basically built around that rhythm, just one of two chords. The beat is the song.
So you've got all these different sounds, these personalities.
Yeah.
And underpinning it all is the guitar, right? The electric guitar.
Absolutely critical. The electric guitar became the instrument of the decade for this music.
Thanks to guys like Leo Fender, Les Paul.
Exactly. They were inventing these solid body electric guitars, and blues musicians especially, they loved that louder, sustained, sometimes distorted sound you could get. It gave rock and roll its voice, its edge.
Okay, so we have these incredible black artists, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Bo Diddley, creating this raw, powerful new music. How did it then cross over and become mainstream? And let's be honest, how did it become so strongly associated almost immediately for many people with white artists like Elvis? That feels like a crucial part of the story.
It really is. And that mainstream break, well, it often starts with Bill Haley and his comments.
Right. Crazy man, crazy.
Yeah, 1953. That was actually the first rock and roll song to break into the Billboard pop chart. And they were consciously aiming for the kids, using slang, keeping the tempo up.
They knew who they were selling to.
Mm-hmm. But the real game changer for them was Rock Around the Clock.
Which came out in 54 but didn't hit big right away.
Exactly. It took being featured in the movie Blackboard Jungle in 1955.
Ah, the movie connection.
Yeah. That movie dealt with teenage delinquency, very controversial. And having Rock Around the Clock as the theme song just catapulted it. National attention, global success, biggest hit of the year.
Yeah.
That was the moment popular music really shifted, undeniably. It was everywhere.
And then Tell said.
Then came Elvis, the phenomenon. And you have to go back to Sam Phillips at Sun Records.
Who we mentioned with Rocket 88.
Right. Phillips famously said, or it's famously been reported, that he was looking for a white man who had the Negro sound and the Negro feel.
Why? Was it purely commercial?
Well, the sources suggest he saw the huge potential of R&B and blues, but knew it would be easier to sell to a wider white audience if it was performed by a white artist. It's a complicated, uncomfortable part of the history.
And he found that in Elvis Presley.
He certainly did. Elvis's first proper single, That's All Right Mama, 1954, Sun Studio.
What did he do to that song? It was originally a blues song, right?
Yeah, by Arthur Big Boy Crudup. Elvis basically sped it up, gave it this nervous energy, mixed in some country flavor.
Creating rockabilly.
Exactly. This new hybrid sound. Catchy, exciting, kind of raw, but also kind of country. Uniquely American.
And his rise was meteoric, wasn't it?
Unbelievably fast. The sources say he went from being a $14 a week usher to this huge controversial name in like a year and a half.
Wow.
RCA bought his contract from Sun for a then huge amount, massive promotion, TV appearances.
The Ed Sullivan Show. Only showing him from the waist up.
That's the famous one, yeah. Because his dancing, those hip swivels, they were considered really provocative, controversial, the sources say, drove teenage girls wild, scandalized their parents.
He was a whole package. The look, the sound, the moves.
Totally. He became the undisputed king of rock and roll, popularized rockabilly, made the guitar central. His impact went way beyond music, fashion, hair, youth identity itself. For better or worse, he was the face of this whole thing.
Which brings us to that difficult point you mentioned earlier, the stolen music controversy.
Yeah, it's impossible to talk about Elvis and early rock and roll without addressing it.
So the criticism is that he took black music.
Right. The criticism, stated pretty clearly in some sources, is that Elvis stole a lot of black music. He covered songs by black R&B artists like Arthur Crudup, or songs written by prolific black composers like Otis Blackwell.
Who wrote huge hits for Elvis like Return to Sender, All Shook Up.
Exactly. And often the original artists, or the songwriters like Blackwell, didn't get the same recognition or, crucially, the same financial rewards that Elvis and the record companies did.
So it's about appropriation and who profits.
It really highlights that systemic issue, where innovation from black artists gets repackaged and sold to the mainstream by white artists who then reap most of the benefits. It forces you to ask who really gained from this crossover and who got left behind.
But the flip side is...
The flip side, which sources also acknowledge, is that Elvis did help popularize these sounds. He brought blues and R&B influences to a massive white audience that might never have heard the originals otherwise. He opened doors for the genre itself, even if the credit wasn't always shared fairly. It's complex.
And this wasn't just Elvis, right? There's this whole cover version trend.
Oh, yeah. The major labels saw what was happening. They realized that instead of trying to promote these unknown black R&B groups, they could sell more records if the songs were re-recorded by established white groups. It was a business strategy.
Enter Pat Boone.
Pat Boone is the classic example, yeah. Very clean-cut image, sang in a much smoother, traditional pop style.
So he covered songs like Duty Fruity.
Yeah. And Little Richard's Ain't That a Shame. His versions were heavily promoted, got way more radio play on mainstream stations.
And sold more.
Almost always. They almost always surpassed the original recordings in sales. Even though, to fans of the originals, his version sounded kind of tame, like a parody, as one source puts it, watered down, but hugely successful.
But it wasn't just Elvis and Haley and Boone doing covers. There were other really important white artists creating original sounds within this new rock and roll framework.
Absolutely. Very important pioneers. Carl Perkins, for instance.
Blue suede shoes.
Exactly, 1956, one of the definitive rockabilly anthems. And it was a massive hit for him first, a triple crossover hit on the R&B, pop, and country charts, which was huge.
But Elvis also recorded it.
Yeah, Perkins had a bad car accident just as the song was taking off, which really stalled his momentum. Elvis then recorded it and, well, made it even more famous. Unfortunate timing for Perkins.
Then there was Jerry Lee Lewis.
The killer, yeah. Great Balls of Fire from 57, just pure, pounding, high-energy rock and roll.
Was that wild piano playing?
Oh, yeah. And the song itself had, strong sexual undertones, which was part of the appeal and the controversy. His career hit a major wall later, though.
The marriage scandal.
Yeah, marrying his 13-year-old cousin. He got blacklisted pretty hard after that.
Okay. And Buddy Holly. He seems different somehow.
Buddy Holly and the Crickets, yeah. That'll be the day. And 57 was their big break. Holly was really special, quite ahead of his time.
Why? What made him stand out?
He was one of the very first rock and rollers to write his own songs, produce his own records, and perform them. A self-contained unit, as one source said. He wasn't just a singer, he was a complete musician. Think of Peggy Sue Every Day, Rave On, just classic timeless songs, incredible talent.
Gone too soon.
Tragically, yes.
Who else? The Everly Brothers.
Yeah, they brought something different again. Bye Bye Love, 57. Those close harmonies, they were smoother, maybe. Their sound was notably popular with parents, too, which was unusual for rock and roll.
Bridging the gap a little.
Maybe. And Eddie Cochran, Summertime Blues, 1958.
A real teen anthem, that one.
Totally. Great riff. And he was doing cool stuff with recording, like layering guitar parts. Plus, the lyrics just nailed that feeling of teenage frustration, the gap between generations. No use in trying to get a job because you're too young to vote.
Capturing the moment.
Exactly.
So it's clear this music was way more than just entertainment. It was, as the sources call it, a cultural earthquake. It fundamentally changed things.
Oh, absolutely. You have to remember the context. The 1950s saw the real emergence of the teenager as this distinct social group.
With their own money and time.
Yeah. Post-war prosperity meant more teens had allowances, part-time jobs, leisure time, and they were bored, frankly, with the mainstream pop music, the hit parade their parents listened to.
And rock and roll spoke to them.
It spoke their language. It gave them an identity, a way to express themselves, to push back against the conformist values of the adult world.
And it wasn't just the sound, it was the look, too, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Fashion changed dramatically. Leather jackets, tight jeans, bright shirts, slicked back hair like Elvis. It led to widespread fashion and lifestyle changes. You could spot a rock and roll fan.
But not everyone was a fan. There was serious backlash.
Oh, huge backlash. A real moral panic among the older generation.
What were they worried about?
Everything. The sources mentioned concerns about obscenity and vulgarity, the dancing being overly sexual, the music being too loud, too rebellious.
So they called it names.
All sorts of names. Crazy music, noise, symptomatic of a decadent and irresponsible youth, evil, the work of the devil, animalistic.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah. They even try to link it to juvenile delinquency, even communism. It sounds crazy now, but the fear was real.
Did they try to ban it?
They did. Some radio stations refused to play race records, as they called R&B. Police cracked down on concerts, especially after any hint of trouble, like an Alan Freed concert in Boston apparently got shut down after some fights. Shows got banned outright in some cities, like Jersey City. Real censorship attempts.
You mentioned Alan Freed. He was a DJ, right? A really important one.
Hugely important. He's often credited with coining the term rock and roll.
Why that term?
Well, some sources suggest he used it partly to make the music sound newer, more exciting, but maybe also to hide its black origin a bit, make it more palatable for white audiences and station managers initially.
Interesting. And his show was popular.
Very. His Moondog show attracted a really diverse audience, black and white kids listening together. He also organized one of the very first big rock and roll concerts, the Moondog Coronation Ball in Cleveland in 1952.
And that went well.
Well, it almost started a riot. Way more people showed up than the venue could hold. It showed the massive demand, but also fed into those fears about chaos.
What happened to Freed?
His career kind of crashed and burned later because of the payola scandal.
Payola? What's that?
DJs taking money or gifts from record companies under the table to play their songs more often. It was a big scandal in the late 50s, and Freed was a major target. He lost his job, his reputation.
So another key DJ figure was Dick Clark.
Right. Very different vibe from Freed. Dick Clark's TV show, American Bandstand.
Hugely popular. Everyone watched it.
Yeah, it brought rock and roll right into people's living rooms every afternoon, but it was definitely a cleaner, more polished version. Clean cut, all American, as the sources say. He made it safe for the mainstream.
Okay, so DJs were key. What about technology? Did that play a role in spreading rock and roll so fast?
Oh, a massive role. You can't underestimate technology here. Think about the transistor radio.
Small, portable.
Exactly. Suddenly, teenagers could listen to music privately in their bedrooms, away from their parents. That really helped create a separate teen culture.
Right, not tied to the family radio in the living room.
Precisely. And then there were the records themselves, the 45 RPM single.
The small ones with the big hole.
Yeah. They were cheaper than LPs, more durable than the old 78s, perfect for jukeboxes, perfect for kids to buy and collect, made the music much more accessible.
And TV, like you mentioned, with Dick Clark and Ed Sullivan.
Huge exposure. Seeing Elvis or Chuck Berry perform on national TV, that shaped not just musical taste, but fashion, dance crazes, everything.
Plus, the recording tech itself was getting better.
Yeah, magnetic tape meant better sound quality on records. And electric instruments, guitars, basses, organs, they created that whole new sound, that energy that defined rock and roll. It was a perfect storm of tech innovation fueling the musical revolution.
So beyond the sound, beyond the fashion, what about the deeper societal impact? The sources make a pretty bold claim that rock and roll played a crucial role in breaking down racial barriers.
It's a powerful claim, and yeah, the sources really emphasize this. It helped integrate American popular culture in a way little else had before.
Oh, I mean, America was still heavily segregated in the 50s.
Extremely segregated. But the music crossed those lines. Even though it originated in black traditions and white artists often had the biggest initial hits, black artists did gain much wider recognition because of rock and roll's popularity.
And the audience.
But audience was key. Teenagers, black and white, were listening to the same radio stations, buying the same records, going to the same concerts, often dancing together, which was radical for the time.
So the music itself created a shared space.
Oh. In many ways, yes. It helped to bridge racial divides. Some sources even argue it helped spur the civil rights movement by fostering this shared youth culture that challenged the status quo.
That Chuck Berry quote you mentioned earlier seems relevant here.
Yeah, absolutely. He said something like, "We might be doing as much with our music as our leaders are in Washington to break down the barriers." It really felt like a cultural force for change from the ground up.
But then, as the 50s started winding down, things seemed to change again. Did the original fire kind of burn out?
It felt that way to many people at the time. There was this perfect storm of incidents, as one source calls it, in the late 50s that really seemed to knock the wind out of rock and roll sails, at least its initial raw form.
Like what? What happened?
Well, Elvis got drafted into the Army in '58. That took the biggest star off the scene.
Right.
Jerry Lee Lewis got effectively blacklisted after the marriage scandal we talked about.
Okay.
Chuck Berry was arrested and faced legal troubles that sidelined him for a while. Little Richard, famously, or perhaps briefly, gave up his rock and roll career to become a preacher.
Really? Quit music?
For a time, yeah. He felt a conflict between rock and religion. And Alan Freed, the pioneering DJ, got fired because of the payola scandal. It was one blow after another to the original guard.
And then the plane crashed.
Yeah. February 3rd, 1959, the day the music died. The plane crash that killed Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens.
Who sang La Bamba, right?
Yeah.
First big pop hit in Spanish.
That's right, a landmark song itself. And the Big Bopper, J.P. Richardson. Losing those three talents, especially Holly, who was still so young and innovative, it just felt like a tragic end to that first explosive era, a real punctuation mark.
So what filled the gap? Did music just get boring again?
Well, the sources suggest the decade kind of ended as it had begun. The music industry, the establishment, sort of reasserted control by promoting a new wave of stars, much safer, cleaner images, clean-cut, respectable white performers, as one source puts it, the teen idols.
So Frankie Avalon.
Wow, exactly. Paul Anka, Bobby Darin, Connie Francis. They became the new faces on shows like American Bandstand. Their music was often catchy, but definitely a lot more gimmicky and tame.
Less dangerous.
Much less dangerous. Some critics at the time, and looking back, called it a parody of the real energy of rock and roll. It was definitely a shift back towards smoother pop.
But was that really the end? Did rock and roll just disappear?
Not at all. That's the thing. It was a revolution that could not be stopped. It had changed things too fundamentally. It wasn't disappearing. It was just maybe regrouping, evolving.
And artists like Chuck Berry kept going.
Yeah, Chuck Berry seemed almost immune to all these changes, one source noted. His music just stayed relevant. It was youth personified, capturing those universal feelings, hopes, dreams, rebellion, but in a good-natured way. His legacy was just so solid, inspiring generations to come, foundational.
And that raw energy didn't just vanish.
No way. That raw energy and rebellious spirit of 50s rock and roll. It directly inspired a generation of musicians who would later lead the British invasion of the 1960s.
The Beatles, the Rolling Stones.
Exactly. They grew up listening to Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, all these guys. They absorbed it, added their own spin, and then brought it back to America with even more force.
And a lot of the original artists eventually came back too, right?
Many did, yeah. Little Richard returned to rock and roll. Chuck Berry kept performing for decades. Their careers got revived. People recognized their importance again. The sound proved timeless.
So the legacy is huge.
Immeasurable, really. It laid the foundation for rock music for the past 60 years, and you can still hear its influence everywhere in almost every kind of popular music that followed.
So wrapping this up, rock and roll. Born from this incredible mix of sounds, Black American culture at its heart, mixed with country, gospel, blues.
Yeah, this vibrant fusion.
It completely defied expectations.
Yeah.
Kicked off a massive cultural revolution, changed fashion, changed attitudes, even helped break down racial barriers. And just fundamentally altered the American soundscape forever. It really was a force of nature.
Couldn't agree more. A true revolution set to a backbeat. So, here's something for you, our listeners, to think about. Given how deeply rock and roll shook up the status quo back then, how it challenged norms and broke down barriers, what music today do you think is doing something similar? What feels truly rebellious, truly transformative in our current time? And maybe how will history look back on its impact 50 or 60 years from now?